welcome to A Talking Talent, a day in the life of a team manager. Some may consider the most important role in the contact centre, and we're going to hear a little bit about it today with two of my favourite guests, actually. So we'll go to that in a minute. So as you know, if you've been listening to these, and if you don't know, this is a programme of events showcasing the contact centre as a career of choice. It's throughout the series. We're going to deep dive into roles in the contact centre, various career paths you can have, and really just finding out about all the exciting opportunities in the contact centre. So we've talked a little bit about quality, and we're now going to talk about team managers. So my guests today are going to talk a little bit about what the role entails, what skills you need, any experience if that's needed, and just generally all round a bit of a broader perspective of what's going on in a team manager. So I'll firstly come to you. Thanks for joining us, Beth.
Morning. So my name's Beth, and I currently work at the Cotswold Company. I am the customer care manager there, and I've worked there for 6 years now. I started off as an advisor, made my way to senior, and done several manager roles with them. Yeah, that's a bit about me.
Great stuff, and I can't wait to hear about that transition, how you started and when you started, and then how you eventually came to do the job you do, because that seems to be a very traditional career path, doesn't it? And I'm interested to hear a little bit about it. So thanks for joining me. And Martin Teasdale, welcome.
Hello. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Beth. Yeah, that traditional career path was one that I took, but it was a long time ago. Started on the phones, was an agent for a couple of years, and then became a team leader and kind of progressed up operationally. So the same kind of, I then went contact center manager. Now I run Get Out of Rap, a podcast, and LinkedIn Live, all things about contact centers. And at the start of the year, I created the team leader communities where I got to know Beth. The team leader community is an online space for, currently we have over 300 team leaders where we share, talk about everything that goes into being a team leader, because you hit the nail on the head. I don't think there's a more important role if you look at how our contact center operations are structured in terms of getting things done right, that they're indispensable. Strategy lives or dies based on the extent to which team leaders are involved and deliver it. The team leaders wield so much power, and they also have the ability to influence people's lives positively, not just within work, but forever, and I think such an important role in our industry. It's really good that more recently they've kind of got the kudos that they deserve, but I still think we have some work to do, which is, I think it's great that you're doing this kind of thing. So really pleased to be here.
Oh, good. I'm glad. And, it has been underrepresented, isn't it? There's been lots of best practice sharing kind of around contact centres, but never really been focused on the team manager stuff. And it's so great that you're leading the team leader community, and you're here as our expert. So we want you to give like a broad view of team manager roles. And then Beth's going to talk to us a little bit more specifically about it. But so tell us a little bit about why you started the team manager community. What gaps were there? Like we've said, it's underrepresented, haven't we? So there's, what have you been doing?
I think the ask that we have of team leaders or team managers, whatever your term is, what we ask of them is greater than any other role within the contact center. So we ask them to be all things to all people, and notwithstanding the initial shock of suddenly being responsible for 12, 15, sometimes 20 people, that alone is a huge, huge task. And then when you start to add on all of the other things that a team leader is either responsible for or plays an integral part in delivering, the role itself is huge. And whilst things are so much better in terms of the provision of training, support, guidance, leading into, that kind of continuous development, there's still there's still not enough either recognition or support. And I just felt from a personal experience, I don't mind admitting I failed initially. That kind of transition from advisor to team leader. If you look at other industries, there's a long lead up time to that where you're prepared for the skills that you need to lead and be the key figure for 12 to 15 other human beings. Now, initially, I assumed they were all miniature versions of me. So they liked the way they communicated like I did. They were motivated like me. They were working for the same reasons I was. And of course, that's nonsense. You know, they're 15 individuals. So just my approach initially, I alienated half my team. They
Yeah.
couldn't relate to me, and I annoyed them. So
Never.
but you know that those kind of that transition and then going on to key things that happen as a team leader. I mean, it's a brilliant role. There isn't a role where you have this much variety, influence. You can, one minute you're doing quality, the next minute you're putting out a fire around your contact stats or technology or performance management or coaching. All of these different things are thrown at you every day, and it's really addictive. But what I found was there were times when I would be thinking, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know, the first time that I got asked to go into a project meeting, and I was in a room with everyone else was a senior leader, and I was thinking, I honestly don't know why I'm here. And God forbid you ask me something, I'm petrified. So the community was just a way, I thought, it's a cliche, but cliches become cliches because they're true, right? It's a safe space for people to talk about those types of experiences and benefit from others going, yeah, I've been in the same position. How did you find it? Why not try this? We share tips and best practice, and it complements what contact centers already have in place.
Yeah.
So the aim is to kind of run alongside and be something, a support 24/7. And it's a real passion project. You know, I live in the community,
Yeah.
because it's just nice to be around people who, you know, from an output point of view, I challenge anyone to say, are there a group of people in the contact center industry that output more than team managers?
Yeah.
I doubt it.
Absolutely. Feels like you're like, it's like another team leader that you can link into, isn't it? Your community. It's like having that someone sat next to you, that another person doing the job that you can talk to, isn't it? So you did talk about a little bit then how varied it is. So 1 minute you can be doing quality, the next minute you're doing something resource planning, the next minute you know, one of your team have got a personal problem or anything like that. Tell us a little bit about what's entails in the role.
To me or Beth?
Yeah, no, to you first, Martin. From what you've seen in the community.
I think one of the things that, you know, from the outset, you might have a view of what a team manager, team leader is. Then the reality is no one tells you you are a psychologist, a school teacher, you're their authority figure. So you're the police, you're a social worker, you have to become an expert on HR policy. So and then an administrator, the technology person that people go to. You're like a walking FAQ part of the website, you know. And that can sometimes feel, especially at the start, overwhelming.
Yeah.
In fact, it's fantastic because, you know, your kind of talking talent careers kind of view. I think if you're a team manager, and you do it for any, you know, a period of time, the routes that you can take, you might go,
Yeah.
you know what, I absolutely love getting involved in projects. Well, guess what? You could go off and become an excellent project manager. If you like quality, you could really focus in on that as your next step. So, you know, even if you didn't want a next step, the role is so varied, you're never going to be bored.
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of, because it can be like that, full on and almost a bit overwhelming, you wonder why anybody would want to do it. So Bethany, how did you, talk us a little bit about how you got into the role.
So, I think like many in the industry, I did my degree. My degree probably wasn't the wisest decision I've ever made. And once finished, I just had to get a job, and I fell into the contact center world. It was meant to be paying the bills. That was all it was ever for. But I quickly learned to love the industry and love the team and what we were doing. So I started off as an advisor. Quickly realized I had a pizzazz for being in a team, liaising with customers, and developed to senior and then to team leader. The company grew quite significantly during COVID. Everyone wanted to do that at their houses, and we were more than happy to help. So we had a couple of restructures. So I've been really lucky to be in a company that's developed quite quickly and having to get to grips with how we support that development and growth. So I've done sales and post order team leader. I've been a complaints team leader. That one was probably one of my favorite roles that I've had. And then I moved to customer care because we quickly realized we needed to segment sales and all the after sales queries that happen. For me, I love the fact that each day is different. You literally have no idea what your week entails. You can plan for one thing that goes completely out the window and something else has to take priority. For me personally, it's definitely the caring aspect that the role entails. I'm really lucky that I got to be a mental health first aider for my company. And it's definitely a skill that I use on a daily basis for my team. Like Martin said, you do end up being a bit of a social worker, someone that wants to develop staff, retain staff, but you also have to have the difficult conversations of, is this role really suitable for you? Is it working for you right now? How can we support and help you? So you do have to do a little bit of everything all of the time. But the caring aspect and the people aspect is why I love it so much.
Yeah, I love that word that you used. I like the pizzazz or whatever. It's just great, isn't it? It's a great this script. We should start putting that on the job application, shouldn't we? But it's interesting what you said about, like, it's very varied, isn't it? And I would imagine if you want to go into this role, you've got to like that kind of almost amount of change and disruption, because like you say, you can't plan on a Monday morning because you never know what it's going to be like. And you mentioned about the care aspect and liking people. Do you think that's really important to be a team manager?
Definitely.
Is that important
and
attribute?
It's something that takes with time as well. Like, you're not gonna, like Martin said, you're not gonna get it straight away, and I'm only able to do what I do today because I failed. And it's not something I would change. Like, yes, it impacted staff and we communicated with that, and I apologize profusely because I was a keen and eager team leader. I just wanted things to be right for customers in the team, and it did turn into a very black and white, this is how I'm going to do it, whether you like it or lump it. And I quickly realized that is not the way to manage. That is not the way to support customers either. And if you care for your staff, they will care for customers. And it does trickle down if you take the right approach.
I mean, it's an interesting one that you said that, because that's similar to what Martin said, that you start off with one view of being a team manager, and it's like, I think everyone's going to be the same. And you talk about the magic weekend, don't you, Martin, where all of a sudden you get a promotion and you're just thrown in the deep end. I mean, what can you do to prepare yourself if you were at the frontline advisor now and you were thinking about a team manager role? What would you suggest to do to prepare yourself for that magic weekend or the opportunity to be a team manager?
You've got access to everything you need around you within your center, and I think it's surprising how receptive people are if you just ask. So if you ask other team leaders, ask other departments, ask your line manager, join the team leader community. I think you need to get exposed to all of the various parts of the role as soon as possible. And people will be accommodating. People will welcome that. When I went on to become a more senior leader, people approaching me and saying, I'm really interested in doing this, naturally, you're going to go, this is great. How can I help? how this person's putting their hand up and saying, I think I want to try this role. There's no harm. What harm can there be? It's a win-win. So everything you need is around you, and access to information. It doesn't need to just be the team leader community, but you just need to go on to YouTube or go on LinkedIn and see other people and what they're doing. Start growing your network. Because I loved what Beth said then. When you think about what she's sharing, these are life skills, right? This is relationship building, commercial acumen, um, attention to detail. These are things that will benefit your life over and above the role itself. And there aren't many roles where you get the opportunity to do that. I think, if ever there was a disaster and you got to choose who the people are around you in a crisis, I would choose team leaders, because you get used to, you're the calmest person whenever the system's gone down. Okay, right. The first time you do it, you're running around going, oh my God. But then you start to go, right, this is fine. I can, I think there's a little part of us that misses when there isn't a crisis to deal with.
Yeah, crisis management. And tell me a little bit about that, Beth, then. What is a day in the life of a team manager? I know you said that you can plan and it can all be different, but give us an idea of what kind of stuff that you would do in a week.
Yeah, so it is such a varied role. So I think Monday is my reporting data analysis day. So looking at what the demand was like for the previous week and using that information to plan for the next week. What things are going on in the business that could impact the contact center and the volume of contact that we're going to get through. What sickness holiday have we got that's going to impact our ability to cope with the demand that's coming in, and then using that information to feed back to the wider business so you know exactly what's going on with the contact center. Throughout the rest of the week, you're looking at one-to-ones. So currently at the minute, we've onboarded 10 new staff members since the end of August. So a lot of them are on a glide path to competency to make sure that they are fully productive in a amount of time that is sustainable for them, but also for us. So we've got weekly one-to-ones with them to make sure they know how they're doing, areas for improvement, looking at things like average handling time. Are they using macros for their emails? Things like that, so they can be as efficient and as productive as possible. In addition to that, you're going to be best friends with HR. They're always going to be someone that you want to be friends with. So looking at how we can support staff with absence. Why are they absent? Have they got a well-being check in place? Do they have a return to work agreement in place to support them? Other things are, I love me a bit of a project, so working with other departments to improve processes for staff and for customers. So we've always got those meetings. QA, always like to do a QA collaboration. So as a department, we get together, listen to calls, see how staff are doing. Trying to think of what's in my calendar. And then most importantly, especially during peak times like now, I do love me a little motivational email to the team, so they know exactly what they're doing, how we're doing, what to expect the following week. Communication is so important as a team manager, not for just staff, but for customers, other departments. It has to be a skill that you build on and use on a daily basis.
Yeah. And I would imagine much more important nowadays with that kind of flexible working model where some of your team might be at home, some might be in the office. How do you manage that? How's the team manager role changed in that kind of environment?
I think post-COVID, there's a bit of a squeeze. There's a squeeze from what people think is right, and you've got the team wanting something completely different, and you're in the middle trying to navigate both opinions. For me and my company, we are, I'd say, pretty lenient in terms of our expectations. So everyone was home working obviously during COVID, and we haven't really returned to full office work. We're in the office maybe once or twice a month, but that's what works for us with the staff that we have, because we recruited a lot of them during COVID. That's how they joined, that's how they wanted to stay. But that doesn't mean if we have staff that want to be in the office more, we encourage that for them as well. It's just trying to find a balance that works for everyone, but also enables you to create a culture that you want to see that is in line with your business values as well.
Yeah. Have you noticed a change in the team manager community, Martin, a real shift in managing those kind of different separate models?
Yeah. I think we've created a specific home working space to provide support and material and things like that. If you think about our population of team managers in our industry now, without doubt, they are better leaders than pre the on-premises remote working kind of makeup. Because, I would say personally, a big part of my management was based on being around people physically, that you can see body language, you can tell when someone doesn't need to let you know when they are in need of assistance. That all went overnight. And the group of leaders that were either in place or have become leaders subsequently have had to develop a brand new skill that we never had prior to COVID. How do you build relationships? There's countless stories and experiences of people having the majority of their team that they've never physically met, yet they've got great relationships with, they've got a great team spirit, and they're managing them effectively. That takes work.
Yeah.
That takes making sure that in amongst all of the chaos of your role, you make sure that you proactively as a leader connect in a meaningful way with each person within your team every day, because these are people that are not soaking up the atmosphere of a buzzing contact center. They're sat in their bedroom, or they're in a kitchen, or so, and it can be a lonely place. The role itself as an advisor, as the three of us know on the phones, it's not a Disney film. It's tough. So your team leader has the biggest impact on whether you enjoy your day or you don't. And making sure that you're connecting remotely and building relationships with people remotely is a whole new skill set that this group of team managers that we have in the industry now have developed. I mean, and again, I think it's testament to what a great group of people we do have in the industry, because it's tough.
Yeah.
It is tough. There's no getting away from it. You can't. I would say I was more like a reactive team manager. I could sense things and I would go in and do it well. You haven't got that when someone's just they might not send you a message, Teams, Slack, whatever it may be. B, if they do, you might not be able to get to it.
Yeah.
Whereas in the moment in the building you can. So whole new skill set. We definitely see it as a challenge for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, new people coming into the market then, maybe who've never done team manager roles before, the skill set has maybe shifted a little bit. What do you think are the key? If you had to name a couple of key attributes or skills, what do you think they would be?
I would say effective communicator, as Beth has said. And I would also say relationship building. And that's not just within your team, but your peers and support functions and above. And I think sometimes people will go, oh, that means you've got to be an extrovert, gregarious. It doesn't. Some of the most effective leaders I've ever worked with or for have been introverts, quite shy, but they've been really effective in supporting me. This kind of concept of, why are you there as a leader? You're there to support your team. You're there to be the biggest champion of their personal and collective growth. And that you don't need to be jazz hands to do that, but building effective relationships and being an effective communicator, I would say, are the two things before you even get into how you prioritize your attention to detail, becoming a real customer service and customer experience expert. If you wanted to get a view of how your brand or product or service is performing with customers, team managers are the best people to ask.
Yeah.
Because they absolutely see it from a tactical point of view and a strategic point of view. Often they don't recognize it as them having a strategic mindset, but they really, really do. So you know, but I would start with those two. I'd start with like your relationship building and your communication.
Yeah, I love that bit that you just said, that personal and collective growth. It is, you've got to be wanted to be invested in people's personal and collective growth, haven't you? I love that. Yeah. So Beth, what do you think? What skills do you think team manager? I mean, you've obviously got the skills because you're doing it. But if you see some people coming into the role, what would you encourage them to be looking for?
Communication, like Martin said and I've touched on already, you have to be able to hold difficult conversations. You have to be able to manage up. You have to be able to communicate what's going on. And you really need to be able to be open and honest and apologize sometimes, recognize when you've made an error, and it's just how you build trust within the team. They know that you're human, they know that you've got their best interest, and it really is an amazing foundation once you've got that embedded within the team, and it sets you up for success. On top of that, I think analytical thinking is quite important. It allows you to be proactive with your team rather than reactive all the time. If you can try and plan and think about what's coming down the line, so that they're not surprised or stressed when there is an additional demand or an influx. Being able to think quickly on your feet, because there are going to be times where your phone provider thinks it's a great idea to stop your phone lines working for 4 hours, and you have to be able to manage that. You have to be the air of calm and keep things ticking over and know how to tackle that as well. It really is just being able to be quick on your feet, know exactly what's going on, knowing how to manage people, know how to manage contact, how to put the customer first. It is a really diverse role that you have to be up for any challenge that comes your way.
Yeah. Sounds like it. Sounds, has that happened to you as well then, that 4 hours downtime by your telephony provider? Yeah.
That was a cracking Friday. Last thing on a Friday afternoon.
Oh,
It's like great.
It's always a Friday as well, isn't it? Always a
Always.
Friday. Yeah. So I know Martin mentioned it before about if you want to do a team manager role, what should you do to prepare yourself? We talked about the Magic Weekend, and Martin was saying, you know, use your network, go out, talk to people. What else would you suggest? I mean, it used to be that you would step into your team manager's shoes when they went on holiday, or, you know, are those still good things to do?
Definitely still things to do. Any experience is good experience. There's no such thing as bad experience, really. What I would encourage staff to do, and what I do encourage my seniors to do, is liaise with the team, feedback to the team, and be able to hold conversations where you come across as caring, but you're able to say, like, hey, like, this is not going so well, I really recommend you doing this next time. Reflect on how they're working. I think it's one of the biggest skills and hardest skills to learn. So if you can start that early whilst you're still senior and developing, you're in good stead for when you become a team leader.
Yeah, great stuff. And what top tips would you have to give people if they're interested in it as a career? Is there any or people who are doing the role now? What would you suggest?
Oh, what would I suggest? Create a network.
Yeah,
You're going to need support. You're going to need people that can give you a different opinion, because you are going to find you have times where you get tunnel vision. Be strict with your work-life balance. Get those habits in early, because otherwise it will overtake your life, and you cannot be a good team leader if you don't have a good balance. You'll burn out. Yeah, something
yeah.
along those lines.
I really like that, actually. Yeah, because it's such a varied role, it can be so overwhelming. I think you need to be able to have the off switch where you can kind of walk away from it, isn't it? Yeah.
Definitely.
What about you, Martin? What advice would you give to your team managers? What top tips come to or your managers share it with you?
I think the number one thing is that you're always in a state of progression. You're always in a state of growth, and you're either winning or you're learning. Don't beat yourself up. I think there's so many times when you're aspiring to be the best leader possible. That's good enough. That's good enough. You're going to have a positive impact and influence on the people that work for you. You're not going to get everything. You're not going to get everything right all the time, but that's okay, because you are moving forward and you're taking your team with you. I think we've talked about just the sheer variety and all of the different things that are thrown at you, but there's no better role. There's no better role. The friends you make, it's one of the best things ever in my career. I don't look back and think, oh, I loved it when we did this project and I loved it when we hit this target. I look at, in a small way, the part I played in where people are today, or how much they enjoyed the role. And it's a privilege. It's a real privilege that you've got people that like work, who like working because of they're in your team. And that doesn't mean to say it's all about you as the leader. It just means that you've created the environment that they enjoy working in. And it's just, there's no better feeling than seeing people do well and you think, oh, I've helped that. Because if you look at the areas that a team leader gets involved in, it is from the moment someone isn't even in the company yet, maybe they're involved in recruitment, all the way through to when they leave your team. And that could be from a positive point of view, that they've got progression, or it could be that they've left the business. But how you're involved in all of that. And I think that kind of variety, if you're listening or watching this and you like solving problems and challenges and building things, there isn't a better role.
Yeah.
If you like being kind of creative and think, right, okay, this is a situation, how am I going to deal with this positively? This role's great.
Yeah. And seeing people progress, like you said, isn't it? Is, being a part of their personal journey as well in work and being able to influence it. Yeah. And what do you love about it, Beth?
What, the role?
Yeah.
Oh, I like how much it pushes me. It pushes me out my comfort zone. I'm naturally don't like speaking in front of my bosses. I get very fearful of it. I'm not one that likes confrontation or being in difficult situations where I think I'm potentially upsetting someone. I naturally don't like doing things like this. This is completely out my comfort zone for me. But without being in the role that I am, I wouldn't have progressed like I have. Like those things are now things that I enjoy. I'm still a bit rusty at, definitely, but it is all part of my progression. And like Martin said, watching people develop is the best thing, because part of my role is that I do the job description, I do the onboarding, I do the interviews, I watch people come and go, and watching people come on board to then go on to something they're really passionate about, whether that's QA, buying, accounting, whatever it is. They've come into the business via the contact center and we've helped them develop into something else. And watching them do that and be part of that is just the best feeling in the world. It's amazing.
Yeah. My final question is going to be, what do you think we can do as a industry to encourage the people into that role? I know we've got some great stuff now with Martin doing the team manager community and us doing Talking Talent. What else do you think is missing? And that could be to a review.
Yeah, the fact that it's not spoken about as a career path, I think that's the biggest thing that's hindering us at the minute. No one, I wasn't that long ago doing my A-levels and all the rest of it. And not once was a contact center discussed as a career path. It was something that you did if there was nothing else available, kind of thing. No one really spoke about it. It was a bit taboo. And I think that narrative needs to change. I think the options that are available to us now, the flexibility it gives for people with disabilities, who are mums trying to work from home, who are trying to balance different things. The industry has so much to offer, but it's not discussed about. And I think it limits the amount of people that were able to progress and develop and get into the right roles, because people rarely choose it as their preferenced career, if that makes sense. And I would love that to change. I'd absolutely love that to change.
I know, and thanks so much for doing your bit today in that, because that's all about this change, isn't it? Yeah. And what about you, Martin?
Oh, I'd echo that. From an industry point of view, we need to do far more. We need more people like Stephen Bartlett, who spoke about how working in a contact center prepared him more than anything else for going on to be the CEO success that he is, because it's exposure to all parts of business and leading people. I think from a team leader point of view, we need to do more. We've just come away from the Call and Contact Center Expo. The most underrepresented group there was team leaders, team managers, because they're seen as integral, right, to the performance of your company and contact center. But by giving them one day out to go and see what is possible in the industry is golden, you know. And it's for me, it's more about, if you are managing team leaders, to be able to make sure that you don't forget about their development. And their development sometimes means just coming out of the operation and going and seeing what's possible, going to get exposure to the industry, and working on other parts of their development. Because not only are these guys integral to the performance today, they're integral to the performance of our industry in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Well said. Thank you. So thanks for you guys for joining me today, and thanks for everything that you do to champion the industry, and especially the team manager role. You know, as you said, it's one of the most important roles in the contact centre, if not the most important. And the more we can talk about it, and the more we can bring this kind of conversation about it, the more people will want to enter and join us. So yeah, thanks again for joining me on this session. If you want to link in with anyone, you can find everybody on LinkedIn. And hopefully that you'll listen to our future sessions. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Let me stop recording.